other things that I catch out and about town, and then I put it up on there, along with interviews from citizens that have stories they want to tell. So Voices of Union County, it's a volunteer effort, and I'm doing my best. Okay, all right, I'm gonna start, we're starting. Okay, so again, this is just for safety, but I will take our faces off, and let's get started. Would someone like to open with an invocation? Cindy, would you like to do that?
Sure.
I would appreciate it.
Sure. Father, we come, Lord, before you as we hold this meeting, and we just ask, Lord, that you would lead us and guide us. We are concerned, Lord, for our county, and we just want to stand up for truth and what's right. And we know, Lord, that you will give us that direction. So we just ask that you would be with us and lead us and guide us in everything we do in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, so our only hard rules for this meeting are to speak in a neighborly way and to not talk over each other. And that's pretty much it. We are here to talk about anything that's concerning us as citizens of Union County, to answer if someone says something and you have information that contradicts that, please share it. This is a safe place to do that so that we can all learn from each other. This is a place to bring up rumors and figure out if they're even true or not, so we don't waste our energy on things that aren't true. We're just basically trying to figure out what's going on and what we can do about it. A lot of the people, even though this is a small group today, a lot of the people here have so much information. I'm really good at asking questions and collecting information, but my real super skill is collecting people that know things. So a lot of y'all are in this room right now, and I appreciate that. We are planning on talking a little bit about, we're planning on talking about property taxes, the short-term rentals, and election integrity. But also, we are here to discuss, like I said, anything that's concerning us. So if you have a topic you want to talk about, please just let us know. I know, Marcia, you have a few things you want to talk about today. So let's get started with property. What was that?
I don't have any property tax problems.
Okay, well good, I'm happy to hear that. Rub it in. Property taxes. I don't have answers for anyone, but I do have some things I've noticed. Like I noticed my property's gone up almost double since 2019, and that's weird because it hasn't been upgraded since 1994, and it's very obvious. And also, I believe that is tied into short-term rentals, so that's kind of my angle for wanting to talk about that. And I'm hoping you will have some information on that to share. If not, that's okay. And also I want to ask, before I turn it over to y'all to hear what you have to say, does anyone remember last year the commissioner saying that he was going not to worry about the assessment because he was going to adjust the millage rate?
Yes.
And then the taxes went up?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure I'm not the only one that remembers that happening, because it's happening again right now.
Yes.
And I find it interesting. I'm a little bit upset with the GOP right now. That's an understatement. I'm being polite. One of the voting members of the GOP was on Facebook today criticizing people for talking about it as if our taxes are actually going to go up, because he says they're going to adjust the millage rate. Don't worry about it. Aren't you supposed to be happy that your investment went up?
I saw it.
Yeah. So that's weird to me. And that same guy, I have an issue with him because he has repeatedly shown me that he's not into free speech. And that really upsets me. That's my whole thing. That's what I do. So I just wanted to make sure I'm not the only one that remembers that same thing was said last year and it proved to be, okay. Wait, also, does anyone remember hearing that if you vote for East Plus or property taxes don't go up? Anyone remember this? Okay.
Yes.
And then are you aware that the day of the vote, when there was no longer time to do anything about it, that's when the announcement came out for the property tax?
Yes.
Okay, all right, then we're all caught up. Yes.
I have some things on property, on the property assessments and everything. I've been batting back and forth with your little buddy there. If you have, if you need to do any type of appeal, August 16th is the last day for appeal. You can go online and do it. It's a pretty simple process online. So if you want to appeal anything, some things I found that when you go onto your assessment and go onto the county website, go into tax assessors, look at your property. I found a lot of errors. I checked about 50 properties in my neighborhood because my taxes, or my assessment, I'm saying taxes, my assessment jumped up quite high compared to everyone else's in the neighborhood. I'm at about 29% increase versus everybody else is about 22. So I started looking. They made a couple mistakes on mine. They put me down for a 3-bath, and I'm only a 2.5 bath, and they put me for a 3.5 bath. Some of the properties in the neighborhood have the wrong square footage put into it. So one of the properties had 0 bedrooms, 0 baths, and it was 1,400 square feet.
Did that
So
belong to the
check
commissioner?
out-
Is that the commissioner's property?
Yeah, no, these are all within probably a mile and a half of my property. I just kind of circled my property and was comparing things to me and found all these errors. I came out with 8 plumbing extra things because I have the 3.5 baths, and it was just very weird things. So check out all of those things. Also, if your property has like a large wash, not so much a river, not a stream, but if you have a wash that water runs down off of a street, that property that you own is not usable and it's not really a stream or anything. So you can appeal those kind of things because that property is not it's not useful to you. I have a home, one side of my home is right on the property line, almost like 15 feet off the property line. The other side has a big, huge wash that comes down. All the water comes off the road, down the hill and off. So over 1/3 of my property is absolutely useless, and I can't get to the back of my property because I would have to build some kind of a road over this big wash. So take a very close look at it. Just don't kind of blow it off because you might really find some errors that are really pretty important. And I didn't check it last year. I just kind of blew it off last year, and when I went into the county, she said, oh, well that all changed last year, so those were on there last year. So it was my bad, I just didn't check it. So just some of those things that you want to look at. The other thing that the people on the internet are saying, oh, well, the millage is going to change and our taxes aren't going to be any better. Well, as she said last year, that didn't make any difference. They still changed even though we were told that. But one of the things you have to look at that nobody's really taken a look at, and one of the ladies brought it to my attention, was it you? Okay. Yeah. Your insurance is going to go up because your insurance is based on what your assessed value is. Mm-hmm. So even if your taxes don't go up, your insurance is still going to go up.
Great.
And in most cases, you know how these insurance companies are. Once the insurance goes up, if your assessment goes down, it's very hard to get the insurance companies to bring that assessment down. So just kind of a word to the wise, look very carefully at that, because you might really find that there's some things that they've either, if you have a 2-story and your basement's finished, some of the places said their basement was finished, some of them said their basement wasn't, so there was a lot of stuff that was just incorrect. I'm gonna venture out of the 50 houses that I looked at, there was well over 10% that were incorrect, had incorrect.
And where do you find all those details?
It's all right there. When you pull up your property, it's all listed all in a row, right on GPublic.
Did you want to add something to that?
She brought up a good point with the whole stream going through your property because you're not able to build 50 feet on either side. So that might be a topic of interest along with that.
Right, and then so I'm actually
assess that.
And you can actually send pictures. So when you go on to QPublic, on the right-hand top of the page is a place that says to file your appeal. You click on that, you can download pictures to it. And one of the reasons why they're suggesting you do that is once you file your appeal, you get an email message back from them saying they got your appeal. So there's not paper running all over the county trying to, and so you get a message back, and then they actually update you with where it's at in the process, and you can download pictures, and they do suggest that you send pictures along with it. So they want me to send pictures of this wash going down the side of my property, because it goes down the full side, and actually it's two of them that converge. So
What picture did you send for the third bathroom? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's like,
I'm sorry, I can't help myself. Marcia,
Yeah, we're talking about 22 to 29% increase here, for this year.
Yes.
But
Not counting last year.
bear in mind that you paid your taxes last year in December. That's only 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
You need to take the value that they upped you last year with what they upped you this year. And my property between, from December to, now, went up $91,000.
wow.
The value, 41 this year plus, and 50 last year.
Wow.
But you see, it's within 7 months.
Yeah.
7 months, it went up $91,000.
Wow.
Mine went up over $100,000. From 2018, when I bought my house, to current, I went up 121% since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's huge jumps, and let's face it, the millage, I don't think it's gonna make, you know, I can't see it's gonna make a
Hold on, Frank.
huge difference. And the thing is we won't know until the day he decides on what the millage is.
Well, okay, so to piggyback off all that real quick, I would go on Q Public, I would pull it up and I would look, because the reason I say that is because, the assessment, okay, before last year's assessment, the last time the properties were assessed here in Union County was 2006.
Wow.
So they have got errors in the things like 2-bath, like mine, we have a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, little A-frame with a loft. They said it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath when we bought it. They counted the bedroom as a loft. From my understanding, a bedroom has to have a closet. There is no closet, it is a triangle, period. So they did change that on mine, but there are a lot of things on there that they did not change. I had went into the tax assessor's office yesterday. They did say, it's just an assessment. Lamar came out in the paper and he said, we are gonna roll back the millage rate after our budget, after they look at their budget for the year or whatever, then they will address that. John Hill from the school board also put his little blurb in there saying, oh yeah, the school board, we're gonna roll back our millage rate too for that. So now what they're saying is your property taxes will not go up at all, or just a little bit, because they're gonna roll back the millage rate. Right, and keep in mind, John Hill from the school system came to the GOP meetings, not once, at least twice, and I go to the school board meetings, he's at the school board meetings saying, if this eSPLOST doesn't pass, we're gonna have to raise taxes, we have gotta get this eSPLOST passed, because if we don't, your taxes are gonna go up. eSPLOST passed, and the taxes went up.
Exactly.
That's a liar.
The only
So
positive.
anyways, just to piggyback off of that, he's the other one that says the school's gonna also look at millage rate from their end. I don't totally understand the whole millage rate thing too much, but they're claiming now, like they did the last time, our taxes, once they look at that, probably won't go up, but I don't know.
They said that last year. Thank you. Yes, Marcia.
I have one more thing on that.
Okay.
From what I'm understanding, now I haven't verified this, was that Para cut out the eSPLOST, okay? From the ELOSH from last year, okay?
Yes, I want to talk about that.
And then he went ahead and made this an ELOSH for this
Hold on,
year.
before we get into that, because I actually want to talk about that, Frank, did you have something to add on the property taxes?
I just wanted to say that last year when they redid the assessments. I went against several properties out, and I got $30,000 taken off of one out of, I don't know, probably 7 or 8. And they don't use any logic. I don't know whether you know the folks that you sent before, but they're all Lamar's buddies.
GMAS? You're talking about GMAS?
Yeah,
The people that do the assessment,
Yeah.
GMAS?
Well, no, I'm talking about the people that you go before whenever you.
Appeal it.
There's 3 of them.
I see.
Who is that you go before?
One of them's Larry Madison. You know Larry Madison?
No.
He was originally a Gooch. He changed his name to Madison.
Oh, that's interesting.
His wife's name was Madison.
Well, that's even more interesting. Okay.
And
Keep telling me things.
but anyway, the point I wanted to make was, it really does not matter what you bring out. I had one property that actually had 15 feet of going through it that was usable. It had a power line over here, a stream over here, but it didn't make any difference. They didn't count any of that.
That reminds me of going to the ACCG, who holds the insurance over the bonds on the oaths of office for the commissioner and every elected official in this county, and them not even looking at it, and then realizing he was the president of ACCG, so that's helpful. ACCG, by the way, if you don't know, Association of County Commissioners of Georgia, they basically run Georgia. The Splosts were their baby. Yeah, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm feeling certain that I'm not, that Lamar was president of ACCG when that came around, which then ties in my mind, because I'd like to connect dots. But in 2010, does anyone here remember, Frank, do you remember if 2010 was the first, is that when we had the first SPLOST vote? That would be the year.
No, it's been longer than that.
It's been longer than that?
I think it was 1990 something.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I would have my
Forever.
timeline wrong then.
It was right after Lamar come in.
Yep. Right
Oh.
after he came in.
Okay,
He's been in 22 years.
yeah, okay, all right.
And
Fun.
it wasn't a bad deal in the beginning, but it just
Went to pieces,
got
didn't it?
all
Hold on, yes, Ruth?
I wanted to tell you all that I know truth and honesty, and I want to piggyback on what he was saying. When I appealed last year, they told me all I had to do was fill out this form, so I put my name and everything on that. They would look at my property and I would get a letter, and that would be it, whether, you know, it was a legitimate appeal or not. Well, I got a letter, but it said to appear in court with your attorney, or appear in whatever he was talking about, you were talking about. And that scared the bejeebies out of me. I could bring my attorney and have to stand before people, and I wash dishes and cook food. I mean, I'm not gonna be having an attorney. But they lied to me. They never told me that.
Told you
They
what?
said, the people at the
Oh,
tax place.
so we
when
need an
I followed up
attorney?
on that, who told me? They didn't tell me, well, you're gonna get a letter that's gonna tell you you have to appear before someone. They didn't tell me
Right.
that. You're gonna get a letter that's gonna tell you yes or no, you know, yay or nay. But I was upset because they're not telling the truth. And when I followed up, there was nobody in that office that said they said that.
Right.
They're liars.
There are 3 different ways to file an appeal, and I believe they're listed on the website.
Yes.
So there's 3 different ways. One is the appeal process. If you don't like it, you'll go to the appeal process like you did. The other, I don't know what the first one is, but I know the appeal process is one. The first one is some other thing. The third one is you can get an appraisal of your property and submit the appraisal. That's the third one. but there are 3 different ways you can elect to file your appeal. So just so that you're aware of that. And like I say, I don't remember what the first one is.
Do you always have to go before that board?
No, only that second one, the appeal process,
Because that's-
takes you before the board. But if you go out and pay for an appraisal, this is your own appraisal, you have to get an appraiser and go out and pay for an appraisal and then submit that appraisal, then they'll take that appraisal. And then, like I say, I don't remember what the first one is. I wish I did, and I don't have it in front of me.
They don't inform you
Real-
of anything.
It is on the website now,
Yeah.
though.
Real quick, I know that there were, I think I remember seeing that there were 1,300 appeals that they had gotten from last year's assessment.
They're still
And-
working on it.
Yes, but they had a week of hearings where everybody that had appealed their stuff, supposedly at the courthouse, it was like a full week, like 3 or 4 hour increments and maybe even more, where everybody that did the appeal, you could go there
Yeah.
and they had to address the people that had the appeals.
That would
Is
have
that
been
true?
me if I would have taken that step,
Okay.
but I got scared.
Because it was
I
like
thought, I can't.
1,300.
Can you do that without an attorney?
I don't know. I thought
Yeah, you
so.
can do without an attorney, you don't need an attorney,
It-
but it's still
Well, they lied to her
intimidating.
and told
Yeah,
her
it's
they
did.
intimidating,
When,
yeah.
when you're working with dishonesty or you're working with malfunction, you can't win.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's disturbance, you can't, so I backed right off, I turned to God again, you know, that's all I can do.
right.
Do
I
it
can't
this year.
handle
Do
it.
it this year.
Okay, so there is a fellow on the Facebook groups that posts like crazy, and he's very difficult to communicate with. However, he brings up very interesting information. So rather than trying to have the conversation to figure out what's what in that arena that gets out of hand, and also he's hard to communicate with, I want to ask you guys, what is this about? Marcia, it's what you were talking about. Will you explain it? East lost and E lost, and the
Okay.
time, and that he cut one short so the other one can come in because he wasn't getting enough money from here. But I did notice that it's always 5 years until this last one, he cut it at 4 and is now starting this new one. Explain that.
My understanding is that Lamar Paris canceled the ELOSH. And we're calling it an ELOSH, not an E-Splosh.
Yeah, ELOST.
That's for educational purposes, for materials.
This is the
and things like
education
that.
sales tax.
Yeah.
So it was different. ELOST is different
That's
than
what-
ESP.
Okay, well, as far as I can tell, I haven't been able to get a hold of it yet, okay? But it looks like he changed it from an E-Splosh to an ELOSH.
No, he changed it from ELOST to eSplost. This time it's an oh, he just changed it back to an ELOST? But we voted on an eSplost. What?
I don't know, I'm only telling you what I found out.
Okay, so that's what we're here for. We bring things up, and if we have questions, I hope that we
Right.
know enough places for resources.
That-
Maybe
okay.
next.
Another thing I found out is that on the E-Splashes and E-Lashes and the splashes and the lashes, whatever they call
Money
them,
grabbers.
statewide, they don't enforce it.
What do you mean?
Means they let it go by. Oh, if you're gonna have an E-Lash, fine, but if you wanna change it to an E-Splash, that's fine too.
But
But it,
that's education, special purpose, local option
Right.
sales tax.
Yeah.
Did I get it right? I got it right.
you're
Woo!
right, but
What is E-Lost? Education,
I've never
local
heard of
option
it.
sales tax.
I've never heard of that.
That,
no,
yeah.
we don't have
You
that.
can go look, I saw it in the
I went
thing.
out on the government, state board, or the state, website and saw that, no, we have never had an E-Splash.
Right, so this guy, Mr. Burgess,
Right.
is
okay.
actually, it's
So-
true. It's just hard to listen because he's so argumentative that it's hard to like figure out what's going on, so that's a bummer.
The Attorney General won't look at it,
Right.
won't look at it, says that your county's too small, we're not gonna worry about it.
Oh my God.
Right, that's why we have this town hall meeting and why I have the YouTube channel, is because we have seen that none of our agencies work For us, it seems so, but we have the people, because we the people are way bigger than them and way more powerful. We just have to get educated on what's going on and actually have a venue where we can speak freely and discuss it amongst ourselves and be we the people again.
Okay, I wanna ask about the 2E things.
What?
So what is the purpose in them, flipping them back and forth? Say, how are they
Okay,
benefiting
all right,
and
Mercury.
how does that affect us?
It doesn't benefit us at all.
So
What it
why
does
do
is
they do it?
let parents go ahead and use that money for other than capital expenditures.
So it's how the money, so when he wants to use it for something else, he just flips it and calls
Sure.
it something else?
Sure.
And then flips it back?
Yeah,
No,
because
he
they're
doesn't
for,
flip it back.
they're
Never
for
flip
two,
it
they
back.
can be used for two, they can only be used for certain things, each one's used for different
So
things.
it's a bait and switch. He's selling us one thing and then switching because he needs it
Well,
to do
that's what
something
I
else
need to
to use it.
research.
Now,
I
I
need to do
didn't
more
see where
research
he
into
has
that.
switched it back to e-lost. I did see where it was e-lost. They kept saying we're just having a continuation of the same, which it's not if it's not the same thing. Do you have, yes?
Have you seen any results of this tax for this education?
It is only, oh, right. You mean for the last one?
Do you mean what they do with the money?
Correct.
Yeah, so like I attend the school board meetings and that's like trying to pull teeth. So I had asked for, if we the people could have, so what they do, they put in the paper this cute little, thing like this and it says, oh, well, here's this particular thing, here's how much money that we've spent, here's how much, and they do this little diagram and it looks great, but it doesn't give you one bit of information. So when I went to the meeting, I say, okay, per Georgia law, this is really what you should be filling out and you should be telling us specifically this project, we said it was gonna be this much, we spent this much, we had leftover, we overspent, whatever. He will not give it to me.
Didn't he say that you would have to pay a lot for that as a record
Well,
thing?
someone, when I first started going to the meetings, someone there from the GOP went, and he got up and talked, got on the agenda, got up and talked, presented the chair of the board a $2,000 check at the end, and said, I want open records requests on the money that was spent on East Blost this last time, because the East Blost is 5 years, correct?
Yes.
It's supposed to be 5 years.
Yes, so he wanted the records of how you spent our East Blost money for the last 5 years. They called him, from what I understand, and told him it would not be $2,000, it would be $3,000 if you want those records. But we will be glad to meet with you if you would like to come in, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have regarding East Blost. So from my understanding, he went in there and he met with them. And he came out of there, from what I understand, and said that he was satisfied with what they told him. I've met with them personally on 2 different occasions, one for CRT issues and one for East Blost issues. I'm not happy with what I'm being told. I don't
It
think
should be public information, correct?
It's our money.
well, you would think, but here's the thing, if you want, so by law, they say, well, we give you in the paper this little diagram and tell you like the big picture. But it doesn't really tell you a whole lot of how the money's being spent. So when you ask that question, are you talking about education or are you talking about, because they like to spend money, this last East Blost that we just passed, I'm not saying we because I didn't vote for it. So
Right.
the last East Blost that was passed, the East Blost before that for 5 years was $21 million. That's what the school got. This East Blost that just passed is $42 million. Why did they need $42 million? Well, because they said that we have to build a new elementary school. Well, that's why they're saying the elementary school is gonna cost $29 to $30 million to build. And so that's why they needed more money this time. But my thing is, instead of worrying about buildings, this, that, every other thing, are we spending any money to educate these kids.
And
I
that's a
mean,
different thing.
it is a different thing, but I've heard from other
But
people.
that's already paid for.
But I've heard from other people that a lot of these kids that graduate out of this school, it'd be nice if they had an education, that they're really not being educated that well.
There's another situation when we're
I-
talking about the money with the school system, is that same fellow was, when I first became aware that this person exists, he's really focused on the school money situation. And so there's a lot of information, but then you try to talk with him about it and it's impossible. So it's not fun. But he was talking a while back about how the federal money that came in for COVID relief, that a lot, like millions went to the school. And so millions went to the school for that. What did it go for? It looked like all of the non-teaching people, all the administration got major salaries. Like
Yes.
one was a five-digit raises.
Yes.
Raises.
Yes.
If you're giving someone a 5-figure raise, a librarian, then that means that next year we have to give them a raise on top of that. It just keeps going up. All of these administrative people have 6-figure salaries already.
Yes.
So the trouble isn't that, for me, isn't that I don't want money to go to the children and the teachers ever. I mean, I am a teacher and I
Right.
love children. But it looks like if you benefit from tax money in this county, then you don't care about the other people and their money. You just only want it to keep coming to you. Because it would be really nice if maybe they did some sort of clean the house and see where they can be saving us money.
Yeah.
I mean, because the rest of us, we're the ones paying for all of it, but we're not getting, I would like somebody in here to help research this difference between e-lost and e-splost, and if it's legal, to go back and forth. Also, pull up the wording on what exactly was in the ballot so we can see if there was anything there that we missed. As far as this switch from e-lost to e-splost, I know they kept saying it was just a continuation of something that's already there, but it's clearly not. Also, somebody to look into how much money has come in from the federal government since 2020. Because, I mean, we have over, what was it, like 1.5 million going to Windstream from the federal COVID funds? Like, what is that? How does that
It's
make
called
sense?
the American Rescue Plan.
Yeah.
Right.
We call it the COVID plan, but it is the American Rescue Plan, and that's where a lot of those raises came from.
Right, but nothing is coming to help the people that can't afford to live while their taxes are also going up. So I would like to know exactly how much federal money has come into this county, because also it concerns me because the federal government has a major agenda, and I hope that it doesn't come with strings attached, you know? That's just how my brain thinks.
I will check on that stuff if you want, because I'm already involved with the school board stuff, plus there's 2 other gentlemen now that are joining me on the school board issues because they're
Into it also.
not happy.
Okay, so that would be figuring out, first of all, what's the difference between e-lost and
I've
e-splost?
never even heard of e-loss.
Right.
I'll look at it.
Second of
My
all,
paperwork. Okay.
Is it even allowable to cut it off a year early to reinstate another one just because you're not getting enough money?
No.
Because I believe, it's probably true that in the ballot, for that last one, the one that they just ended early, it probably says in the question 5 years.
Maybe they put, I don't know, but, because I didn't read all that fine print when I said no. But, maybe they put in there that we're cutting this one off, like, because I would think you'd have to vote on that. If you voted it in, you would have to vote to end it early.
I
Well,
don't think that's
so-
legal.
No,
No, you don't have to do that.
you don't.
Harris went ahead and signed off that old one, okay? But you gotta bear in mind, they had the 21 million last year. And here we still paid the penny every time we used.
Supposedly they had a $10
And
million
that's why they put the
surplus.
millage down.
So what happens when they have a surplus? Shouldn't that come back to us?
They had $12 million at the end of the
No.
year, still in their coffers.
Okay, I don't.
This is why I hang out with y'all, so you know a lot of stuff. Okay,
It says in the title that it's option, what was the title, what did it say?
Education's I'm sorry, I got off of that real quick.
That's okay.
Um,
I had a thought and I lost it, so maybe I'll catch up.
It's
When you do.
optional, so it's like almost in the title, it says that they can use whatever they want.
Whereas the education special purpose, local
A special
option.
Yeah,
purpose,
education,
option.
special purpose, local option sales tax.
Yeah, it's not an option. When you go to the grocery in any store, you're paying that every time.
Oh,
But
Well, it's an
I
option on
know
what
this.
they're gonna use it for.
Yeah.
They did
Whatever
say that
they
it would be
choose.
used for building a new elementary school. This is number 6, the first one was in 1998.
Yeah, 1998, that's what I thought. So.
So are they saying there's no difference between an E-Lost and an E-Splost?
Yes, there is.
We
Yes,
need to
there is.
find out these things.
I'll find out because I've never even heard the e-loss thing. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
It would be really nice if we could figure this out amongst ourselves before the next county meeting, because he only
Yes.
allows us to have one question.
Yes.
And it would be really, if possible, if we can make our question as precise as possible.
And ask him that?
And
If he
ask.
did that?
Now, when is Ferris ever gonna answer anything? He lets
I
his
don't-
lawyer do it now. And his
Well,
lawyer's
never.
main answer is, I don't know the answer to that.
Right.
No, I don't know why.
But we
Yeah.
get it on tape.
Was that
of
on
him
the
saying-
agenda? You can't ask that question unless it was on the agenda. Right. So, okay, so I kind of want to segue into short-term rentals and explain why I feel like those are related. Why I am pretty sure our reason why our property assessments have gone up is because of this thing I've been talking about. And Diana, I hope that you will correct me if I'm wrong. I know that you will, and I appreciate that. Okay, so investment properties by corporations outside of Union County, like, and I can't ever say this right, Wyndham, the hotel company, Wyndham, they are now buying houses and doing, short-term rentals. Also called VRBOs by the county commissioner. I call them short-term rentals. That's what most of us call them. So the vacation rentals. So corporations are coming in and buying these properties like $100,000 over asking price in cash, no loan required. And it's keeping us from being able to buy homes for our families. And because they're buying it so high, it's making all the other property values go up. But not only is that happening, but they're not spending their money in our community. They're corporations outside. There's absolutely no benefit. And when I have asked the commissioner, when he doesn't talk over me trying to ask this question, it has become very apparent to me he doesn't want people to be thinking about this. But when asked, he says, well, they pay a tax. At least they're paying a tax. Well, I don't know if you saw this, but in the paper, was it this week's paper or last week's? He does a Q&A, I think it was last week's, where he says that 90% of that tax money goes to the Chamber of Commerce.
I'd like to know why. Is it because
They
they
were
don't have a
moratorium
choice?
last week.
Yep, tourism.
Do we vote for anyone in the Chamber of Commerce?
No,
Why are they getting our tax money?
They get it from the city also.
because they're
Oh.
tied in with
Yeah.
the commissioner and.
And the
it's all-
ACCG?
Yep.
And the
it's all-
federal government? But
you
that's
know,
another
if you go to
story.
the Chamber of Commerce, and because I've gone there before and said I was interested in part-time rental, they have a booklet that they open up and they say, well, we've got a list of some. So I bet there's a connection between that. They're almost like a
Yep.
referral
Yep.
form.
Well, they get 90% of that tax money, so that's a non-answer when we're asking about how are they benefiting the community, because that's not helping us at all. So that's an issue. And especially if it's the reason why my property that's got like dingy, like tobacco yellow stained linoleum from 1994 just went up $102,000. I have questions. Okay. And that is the only thing I wanted to mention about the short-term rentals. The commissioner had a commissioner meeting. I think it was 2 meetings back, might have been more. I've been to a lot of them, where he wanted to talk about the short-term rental thing. And the way that came up is a group of people, or this guy, as far as I know, I don't know who started it, but this guy in particular was fed up, and so he started something called The Union County Initiative Short-Term Rental, and I can never remember the last word. But if you get the first 4 words, you'll find the group. And people jumped on like crazy within just a couple of days. It was full of conversation and people very concerned. A lot of the people were talking about noise. The people that live next door were talking about noise. And you know a lot about this because this is what you're doing. People talked about having their private property disrespected by visitors. But when I first got on there, what I was seeing the majority of the conversation being was about this. That's how I found out about the Wyndham hotels or Wyndham, whatever, Wyndham. See, I said it right. Okay. So that's where I learned about all that stuff, was in that group. So someone in that group sent an invite to the Facebook group of Union County government and said, please look at this group because we have serious concerns. They sent an official response saying, thank you for letting us know, we will look at this and get back to you. Something like that. And so I saw all that in that group. So then he had a meeting a couple of days later, or a few days later, where he said, by the way, I see there's a group, don't listen to the things on there because they're spreading misinformation. And so after a year of studying him and going to every meeting, anytime someone says something that's unfavorable to him or his agenda, his response is, they're lying, don't listen to them. So if you hear that, that is a clue to go look. So what he then went on to talk about was only about the noise and the things like that. And I found that really interesting because, and then he also said that only 2 phone calls had come in to him about it. And so if only 2 phone calls have come in, then it's obviously not an issue. Whereas the official Facebook government page acknowledged that this group existed and that they were gonna look at it. And there were like 150 people within 2 days on there, very upset. We need to start a thing. I keep thinking to do this and then I forget because I've got a million things and I can only do so much. But we need to start doing something where we have a place to go to get like cut and paste email stuff, so we can just start getting people to just flood him with emails about absolutely everything, because it looks like there's nothing to prove that people are upset.
You mean to the commissioner? Have people emailing saying?
Yeah, like email campaigns would be really helpful.
I have information on all of that.
Okay, hold on, let me I think I'm done, but let me make sure. Okay, he said, right, don't listen to them, blah, blah, blah. And he talked about the noise. He did not talk about the property stuff. So I raised my hand and I asked about that, and he spoke over me the whole time and they threatened to kick me out.
Yes.
But I still asked the question and I said, I find it interesting that you're not addressing this, and will you please let me know if this is gonna be addressed? And then they laughed at me and said, we can't stop corporations from buying houses. No, but you can protect the people that pay you money to be our elected official. So I feel like he works for the Chamber of Commerce, but that's just me. Okay, I think I covered it. Now Diana is.
I'm going to come up front just so that you don't have to turn around and
I get a bad kink in my neck.
Yeah, I know. I don't have to stand at the podium. Well, maybe it'll be easier if I just rest on the podium. This happened to me, I have no idea. I was given a call shortly after this meeting by the county to be on a board that is investigating short-term rentals. There are 9 of us on the board. I'll give the background. I'm not a fan of the counties. I'm probably one of their most hated people. And so why they picked me was quite a shock. So I almost didn't do it, but I decided it will give me an in to find out what some of the workings are of the county. So I kind of was using it to my advantage. And so I said yes. So I'm on this board. We're into it about 2 months. What we're doing, what we've been tasked to do, is we've been tasked to write an ordinance governing short-term rentals. Okay, we've broken out into groups. We first met as a group of 9. going back to yours before I forget about that, if you want to write anyone in the county office, Renee Diebert is the person. Her email is, let's see here if I can get back to her.
She's over this?
Yes, she is the moderator of this. It is Renee, how do I get her email address?
It's on the county website.
Yeah, Renee, I think this just says Renee at uniongov.com. But anyway, if you want to write to someone, she is the moderator of our group. She's not involved in what we do, but she is moderating and keeping us kind of, on track and making sure that we're working on all the same kind of things. What we have done as a group at this particular point is we have defined short-term rentals. That was a big, hard thing to do, because as we got into this short-term rental thing, you don't realize how many things need to be covered for things going down the road. There's yurts, and there's tree houses, and there's just all kinds of weird stuff that you just wouldn't expect that actually could happen here. We have yurts already near us. Near some river is 5 or 6 yurts that white yurts on the river, that somebody built yurts on these things. Those would be considered short-term rentals. So we had to really spent a whole month on working on what we would think the description of short-term rental is now and down the road. So that something doesn't spring up on us 6 months down the road, and then we've got to go back and revisit, and we've already, and the bad thing is when you go back and revisit, the things that have snuck in now have to be grandfathered in. So we've got to be really careful. So it's kind of a slow process. It's frustrating at some points because it is going slow. And now we've broken out into groups, and we are now working on the meat of it. What are the rules going to be? What's this? We're not doing the noise ordinance because the county is working on a noise ordinance outside of our group. But then short-term rentals will just mirror the noise ordinance that the county's working on. But we're going to have to work on parking and, how many people to a house, and whether there's inspections of those properties, and whether the fire department needs to put in, do they need fire extinguishers and that kind of stuff. Yes, sir.
I was involved back around 2010 and before that. I was involved with a company that managed short-term rentals here. We handled probably 50 houses. They were all owned by individuals who, they were second homes, and it never created a problem for anyone.
Right.
And you can over-regulate everything.
Right, and you can, and one of the reasons for this being regulated is because we're seeing what you're talking about. We're seeing in this community and in other communities that the large corporations are coming in and they are buying large pieces of property. And just so that this is another thing that I want to bring up before I forget about it. I've been digging into this on a daily basis. In Washington, D.C., just within the last probably week to 10 days ago, the House Committee on Financial Services has started an investigation on short-term rentals and corporations, the impact that corporations that are buying short-term rentals are having on the economy of the United States. So there actually now is a committee that is talking about the impact that short-term large corporations, they just, it says here that a survey response the companies gave to the House Committee on Financial Services, which sets its sights on the growing reach of the own-to-rent industry during a hearing on Tuesday. And this was like, I think 2 weeks ago when I came in. Witnesses called for expanded protections for renters, more public housing, limits to local zoning rules that prevent new housing from being built, and other federal laws they say might help bridge generational wealth gaps. So what they're finding throughout the whole United States is this is happening all over the United States. And what happens is it hurts us, it hurts poor people, it hurts young people.
Yeah.
Very drastically it hurts young people, because your children, when you want them to move out of your house, can't go anywhere. They have to stay living with you because they can't afford to get a house on their own. There's either none available or the prices are so high. I mean, we're encountering that in our county right now, is the houses are so high that if I were 18, 19, 20, 21, even 25 years old, working at McDonald's or Burger King or wherever, I would not be able to afford a house. Right now, if I had to buy houses at the price that the market is right now on my Social Security, I wouldn't be able to afford to make the payment. So the federal government is actually looking into it. So even though we may not feel it's a really serious problem here, it evidently must be a serious problem because they've convened to look at what is happening. So anyway, that's kind of what's happening. I don't have a whole lot much more, but we are working on these rules and things. As I have information and as we move forward to this, we're looking at about 6 months. There is a moratorium. The moratorium starts on August the 15th, I believe. I could be off a day. On August the 15th, there will be no more permits put on for short-term rentals. So no one can come in on August the 15th and get a short-term rental permit after that for 6 months. So that will put a limit to how many more short-term rentals will be able to be out there. The reason they put the August 15th is there are quite a few homes that are under contract right now and they have to wait for the closings and the financing. And because they were advertised to people that they were able to do short-term rentals, they only felt it was fair to, extend it to August the 15th. But if you notice with the realtors advertising now, where it almost always said, when you saw a new house for sale, it almost always said that you can put this up for rent and, that kind of stuff. You're gonna find that's eliminated. If you find that it's not eliminated, pick up the phone call and call Renee, call the Association of Realtors and let them know, because all the realtors in their ads should be dropping that off their ad, because they will not be able to promote those houses as short-term rentals after August the 15th. But I'm checking ads as I look at them every day, and I'm seeing that most of the realtors are not mentioning that you can rent this, buy this house so that you can, pay for it by renting it out. So most of the realtors seem to be taking care of that. So
I'm so excited. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's more than I thought it was going to be, but it's interesting at this particular point. So.
I find it interesting that 2 months in a row now I've brought that subject up, and they have laughed at me, mocked me, tried to kick me out, and now the federal government is looking at it. So exactly. I know what my question's going to be this month. So we need to get somebody else to ask about East Plus, because I feel slight redemption would be nice after as much hell as I've done.
Last meeting, I talked to Mercer about what are we going to do about illegals when they start dropping them off. And they laughed. We'll never have illegals here. Guess what? We had an illegal break windows out of a gun shop, so.
Actually, that I want to bring, thank you.
Yeah,
I got for you, because that was really exciting. I almost clapped while you were talking. Yes, I collect brilliant people. That's what I do. So people call me like I know all the answers. I'm like, no, you're confused. I know who to call. That's what I do. Wait, let me make a note because this has nothing to do with that. Okay. So that is really interesting about that. I have concern, and I have concern about multifamily housing, like affordable housing, because if that ends up being the route that that whole thing goes in order to counter the fact that the corporations are buying the actual houses, that concerns me. But the only reason it concerns me, because you made great points before about that, Frank, about why we need it. The only reason it concerns me is because in my mind, it means outside people are gonna come in and take those, and then we just grow in size. And we obviously can't have more people just keep flooding in, because we're not big enough for that. But we need somewhere for our families to go. Like, my mom is living with me until she can find a house to buy, and we need to have houses to buy. So,
Now's not the time.
now is not the time. I'm hoping for a market crash, but,
I do have information on multifamily housing.
okay, yes, okay.
So-
So that is the thing. I wish that I have this gut reaction to it, because I just imagine that it's gonna be filled in with people from outside coming in. And I know, I mean, because you made a wonderful case that that's not true, and we need them for our people here. All of this is related. This is all related to the property taxes even. Okay,
Well, I asked the question, I go to the planning meetings every third Friday, the Planning Commission, Economic Planning Commission, who, by the way, I now understand they have really no power. They can't control private people from buying or selling. They're not that entity. But they can kind of shape and vision and try to draw corporations in. So I asked them specifically about multifamily housing, what their vision was, and it was specifically about the corridor where they're putting the sewer. They're trying to get money. They're having problems getting money to put the sewer into Victoria Station, so east. And I asked them about that. I said, you have plans, if you get that done, do you have plans to put, multifamily housing? They do have plans. They have plans to put commercial, there are already pads, like
apartments?
places, well, commercial, like retail, businesses along the corridor, and then behind that, they would put the multifamily housing, so it wouldn't be out. It's like they kind of have it hidden around town. I don't know if you already know that. There's like one up on the hill behind Save-A-Lot, and so their plans are to kind of put them places and not have them front and center. And I asked them, what kind, I asked specifically about subsidized housing, Section 8 housing, government subsidized. They are not going to put any, this is what they've told me. Now, this is what they're telling me.
Okay.
Okay. So, because I'm asking specific questions, they're not putting any subsidized housing. There won't be any Section 8. There won't be any, where somebody goes in, they get government money to pay their rent. What they are doing, or they're looking for modest price housing, is tax credits for the builder. So the builder gets a tax credit, and then they will build a more modest structure. So they won't make as much money on the rent, because it's not like a luxury place where they get a higher rent, but they'll cap the rent off, make it affordable for people. The people will still pay out of their pocket the full rent. And their reasoning for needing this is because we have no place for, it's not only like, people that work at Aldi's and Ingles and fast food, it's also the, like the lower level hospital workers, like maybe your techs, your aides, and people that staff our hospital, the fire, police, entry level teachers, it's professionals too that aren't finding. So that's why we have a shortage of workers also. Because people will not live here and work because they can't afford to find a place to live. So that's their reasoning. That's what I've gotten so far. And they're looking at apartments. Nothing will be over 3 stories, because that's our ladder on our fire truck only goes up 3 stories. So
Yeah.
I said, well, we can always get a new fire truck, but we didn't pursue that. So they're saying no, nothing, real tall. And then once, they kind of do apartments, then they would do maybe townhouses, condos for seniors and, people that were middle. And then there's also thoughts about small homes on small
Like they have
plots,
over on
subdivision.
Matt Arrowford.
Yeah, so for modest. So they do have these in the work. And the reason, in my opinion, I think they're trying. I mean, maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm really naive, but I think they're trying to control the impact that the growth is having. But from what I can see, the growth, we can't stop it because we have high-speed internet, we have a 4-lane, we have beautiful countryside, and people are gonna come in spite of us saying, don't build these. The corporations are building here because they know we have things in place that are gonna draw people. And I don't know what we do about that, other than manage the damage that's gonna happen.
Right.
Well, the infrastructure is not set up.
Well, and that's the other thing, so I asked them about the traffic, because I'm really concerned, Ingles is
horrible.
already a mess, but Aldi's, I'm really concerned about that I saw this happen in Xenia, Ohio, which is my hometown of 30, I lived there for 30 years before coming here, and it's the same thing. 30 years ago, this was Xenia, what's happening here. But we have no traffic management. We don't have anybody that, and I'm like,
Like
well,
literally.
that explains a lot.
No, I mean, like,
Because
you mean
we
literally,
don't
there's
have-
no,
No,
Yeah.
we don't have, there is nobody planning like how that Aldi's is, I guess O.O. is saying something about the entrances, at least that was in the meeting notes. So Aldi's is having to reconfigure stuff, but we have no traffic management in Blairsville, and the way it's growing, yeah, that's why we
right.
have problems.
Huh.
So we don't want to overreach and have ordinances and zone, but
Right.
we do need some kind of control mechanism to manage what is happening, and we can't just let it all happen, or we'll never be able to untie the knots. In my
Write the
opinion.
regulation for the corporations that are coming in,
Right,
not the private owner.
right, or like
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
taxes for corporations doing business in this county, and then we
more
could have,
taxes that come in from them lowers the taxes of the other people.
yeah. And it would give small businesses an incentive. Again, this place used to be, it was all small businesses.
Yeah.
And you went to the families to go get your stuff done, and then what's so beautiful about that is you got to have a business doing what you were good at, because when you're doing what you're good at, you are at the highest ability to serve your community. You know, like if you follow your passion, then you're really, really good at that thing, and it always ends up being something that serves the community. So when your town is based on small businesses, everybody has everything covered. And now we don't get to, like, we don't really have, we have it still, the ones that are still hanging on, but
But the corporations are buying from they're not buying from the city.
right.
Private individuals are selling their
Right.
land to the corporations that wanna come, because they know we're growing, because we now have high-speed internet we have all these things in place.
I wonder if we could
Now,
adjust the
if you
amount of
are-
taxes we charge corporations. I don't know anything
Well-
about that, I don't know.
Something
You do?
to protect
Okay.
the private, like if we had something to protect farmers, to encourage them to hold on to their land, but I don't know,
That's going on nationally though.
Yeah.
They are taking land from farmers and.
Well, I know, and I know
People-
foreign
people-
entities are
People
buying.
can't
Yes.
afford to hold on to their land.
I know, they have to, I mean, there's a personal issue there. I don't know, if anybody wants to come to these meetings. with
When
me,
are they?
I don't know what I'm doing.
They're at
I'm
9
just
a.m.?
listening.
Doing a good job.
I don't understand it all.
I won't sit next to you, so I won't tarnish your image when I start asking.
Oh.
I'll start asking pointed questions.
When they see her coming, they're like, oh, gee.
Yeah, they get upset, but I'm never mean to anyone. I just ask questions, and they get really mad about it. When is the meeting?
It's the third Friday at 9 a.m.
Okay,
So it's in the the community center, second
Where
floor,
the view is.
the view, yeah. by
where
view.
the GOP meetings
Yeah.
are.
And I do feel, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, like I said, but I feel like these guys really do, I mean, I'm sure they have personal interests too. I mean, let's be honest, they're all
They do.
businessmen, they're all,
Do you hear the word sustainable a lot during those meetings?
no, not really. I don't
Okay.
think I hear sustainable.
But they
Let me
do,
talk about
because
that for a second, because I know some things that
Yeah, I
concern me big time on that, and then I want to try to wrap it up. We're gonna do a good job and make this less than an hour and a half. Oh,
I just wanna
that's
say
right,
one
let's
thing.
go there before I change
One
it.
of the ways,
Thanks for
and I
reminding me.
brought this up at a commissioners meeting once, and of course that
Got cut off.
got cut off. Impact fees. That is the way you control these businesses is impact fees.
Oh,
I brought it up to the commissioner about the hospital when he complained about how bad the road was and we didn't have tax money to, do anything about the entrance into the hospital and stuff. I brought up impact fees, and also then you can do special zoning districts. You can take that hospital and make it a special district, and you can tax it a little differently so that the taxes in that hospital district go to making sure the roads are always prepared for the ambulances and yada, 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 yada. But impact fees are what you would use to control these
So
types of businesses.
How do you get those?
He doesn't wanna hear that.
He would have to instigate impact, and he's talked before about impact fees. So he's familiar with impact fees. At one of his meetings, they did talk about impact fees. But that is the way that you kind of, get the money back, and that goes, so if somebody comes in and they want to put in a 3-story, apartment complex, they're charged an impact fee that does the sewerage and the electric and the road, and, it helps to alleviate us taxpayers, taking care of all those kind of things. So, that's a way to help out. But anyway, that's all I have on that.
thank you.
Most big cities use impact fees a lot.
I think I saw you have a physical reaction when she said zoning.
I know.
Because it's regulations.
I know.
I understand, I don't want regulations either, and I'm standing here,
I know.
and I'm thinking to myself, the irony of me wanting to regulate to reduce government. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
However, what else can we do right now?
I have something, so the way it was put to me too, and I'm with you, I live in an unrestricted area, I have roosters crowing, I have cows mooing, I have people shooting guns, I love it.
Me too, yeah.
I love it, I am so happy that we bought where we did. But, Mr. Griggs also explained that we're pretty much unrestricted and we do have we have the industrial area and we have some, like you said, but somebody could go in and buy from a private individual downtown a place and put a medical waste facility there, and we couldn't stop them.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of an extreme example. I started going to the meetings because I'm worried about crypto mining.
Right.
Because I am kind of close to I'm kind of out a little bit from the airport industrial, I'm towards the farm area. And I see what it happened in Murphy, and it scares me to death. There's a moratorium on crypto mining right now.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's why I started going, so, but I know, I don't wanna change where I don't want them to start saying no roosters, no people shooting guns.
And I'm the
I
same
don't know.
way.
I don't know what
I'm
the
the
answer
same
is.
way, but
I don't know what the answer is.
it's a
Love-hate.
it's a love-hate relationship. It really is. Because even if you live way out in the country, there's not stopping anybody from putting a junkyard right next to you. You know what I mean? And they could do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a strange bag of worms. I mean, I love exactly what I have too, but it is a strange bag of worms that you kind of have to look at.
Did you have something you wanted to add, Frank?
Well, I guess I'm the only local in here. I don't know if
Well,
anybody
we're
else.
all local now.
How are you?
And we came here because we like your local.
Yeah, right.
Well, my family's been here since, my family was the first family here, and I've been coming here since I was
There's
little.
no need to coming here and making it like what you left.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know, right.
That's why we're complaining about how it's getting, because we moved here
We're trying to
because it was
protect
rural.
it, but yeah, we have to, yeah.
Drift away, yeah.
So Frank, what do you suggest on, because I am hearing the irony, like I said, of instilling regulations to lessen the government. Does it make sense?
I would say the very first thing you need to do is get a government.
Yeah.
Get a government. What do you mean?
Not a solution.
A real government.
A real government.
Not a person.
Yes.
Dictator.
You know exactly what we mean.
Right. Okay.
We've got to change our form of government. We have a conservative county that's run by Democrats.
Right, that's weird. Well, and our GOP didn't put anyone up, and I know they keep telling me that was the GOP members from before, but while it was the GOP members from before, the GOP members now still don't have a committee, or they didn't have a committee for getting candidates until I asked the question last month, because that's what I do. But yes, Marcia.
Okay, we talk about how we need to get a better government. But we need better leadership from us.
Yeah.
Us, the grassroots. And I went to this leadership school here a couple weeks ago. Man, did it make a big difference.
What?
And I would like to get a school going here, but it's just a one-day class, okay? And it will show you where we're making the mistake of doing the wrong thing for the right reason. And how to change that, and how to make more of a difference in our government.
Is there some way you could write up something or do something to share some information with us?
The class book,
I want to take pictures of that.
I only have one. I'm gonna ask them for more. And I will see, I wanna get a class going, but I need at least 20 people who wanna take that class.
I want to be in
I
there.
will.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you what, it made such a big difference. I tell you what, Libby Stevens doesn't
We didn't
like
even
me.
talk about that, and
I
we're
know
like,
that. That's okay, we
No,
don't
she's
need to really
across.
talk about that.
This is
But Libby
across.
Stevens does not like me.
right.
You know who Libby Stevens is?
Okay, so
She's the chairman of the Board of Elections. But she respects me, because I get right in there and I make good points for her.
let's touch on that really, really fast. Okay, so what's going on with election integrity? We have people in town that are they still collecting affidavits for Candace Taylor? Do you know?
Lori is.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going on around town. So anybody wants to know how to
get
sign.
anything until we get a court order.
Right, but still, it's good to have the documentation. So if anybody wants to sign that affidavit to help Candace Taylor, because her deal was she got less votes than she had volunteers, which doesn't make any sense.
Now, you see, that's another thing. We have she has not made a formal, request for those ballot images.
Candace Taylor hasn't?
No, she has not.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And, but the thing is, I did,
Right.
and Lori.
So then
did.
you and Lori, and I went to an election board meeting.
Remember I called everybody, I got these ballot images, I need people to help me with it.
Uh-huh.
She only sent me the absentee ballot and the 2 provisional ballots. So we're talking about less than, 348 votes out of 8,900 and some odd?
Wow.
And
was that even after an extended period of time beyond the 3 days that's required? Because I know that you guys
No.
were asking for
Okay.
things and they kept ignoring it.
when you talk about that, Lori put in the request the day after the election. But she didn't do it, I don't think, correctly. She went to the the commissioner's office to
Well-
have them do it, and they waited until June 3rd.
No, they said, she went to them to say, who do I send it to? Because there's no email address for Libby
Right.
Stevens. And they said, send
Well,
it to
yeah,
us
there
and
is.
we'll give it to her. So,
There is an email, and it is an official one.
okay.
She could have done that.
And then when I went to the election board meeting, we were asking them for a hand recount. And is it Linda Hill?
Yes.
Linda Hill, who is a member of the GOP, so you have 2
Yeah,
GOP
Linda
members,
Hill.
2 Democrat members, and then the board, the chairperson.
Which is a Democrat.
Libby
Which is,
Stevens.
right. And so Linda Hill, who's one of the GOP members, she was she was hearing, she was listening, and when we were talking about doing the hand count, but she just kept saying she thinks that the issue isn't here, but actually elsewhere. And I believe she was thinking the Secretary of State. She didn't say it out loud. So she was being really helpful and saying, we can do that, we just, you know, it's gonna be a waste of time, you're not gonna find what you're looking for. And then finally we were like, okay, let's do that. And then everybody in the room is like, well, we don't have to unless we get a whatever request from the official.
That day, they actually had the paper ballots right there in that office.
And then the meeting was over and we all left, but then they kept it going on with the meeting. So that was interesting because that was supposed to be an open meeting. And then when and then Lori requested to be on the agenda so she could speak on this subject, and they canceled the next 2 months of meetings.
Yeah.
Even though there are many open requests for those ballots and for a hand count, now all of a sudden they're shut down for 2 months because of COVID, which is not a 2-month thing.
Let me put it this way. When she did not cancel that meeting until a week later, okay, 2 weeks later, for July meeting.
Yeah.
And then she said it was due to COVID exposure. I mean, how long does it take now for COVID exposure?
Apparently all the way through August.
10 days,
2
okay?
years.
Yeah.
2 years.
And, so it was just a made-up excuse.
We could do it online also. But this is a high pressure
We'll get it.
time period, you know? Okay, so I think that's everything with that, and then I wanna really quick just say my concerns on what you brought up with sustainability. So I have been paying attention to national and global and all that for a really long time, and it wasn't until a year ago I started going to local and taking all my skills on that and focusing it here. But before that, I had a run-in a town where I learned really quick what happens when a group supported by the Communist Party USA and funded by Soros, what happens when they take over your town. Now that's not happening here necessarily that I'm aware of, but a ton of money has been put into Georgia from him, and Kemp went into business with him and a few others, but he's the main guy, to open an electric car manufacturing place that's taking up all this land and water and everything from farmers over near Commerce, Georgia. So that's that. And then he funded $1.5 million to Stacey Abrams that she could only get if she won the nomination, so therefore she ran unopposed, so she'd win the nomination, and we know what happened with the ballots and the open primary. So all that money is coming in from a person that obviously has an agenda for sustainability. I went and looked on that Communist Party USA website, so cpusa.com. And I went into the search because they have a ton of articles, and I put in Georgia farmers, and a huge article comes up where they're talking about, oh, how the poor farmers need the Communist Party, and oh, those poor farmers, no one's looking out for them. It's this long, so I am a manipulation detector, and it was very hard to read this because it was so, ugh. But if you made it through the whole thing, there was one tiny little paragraph that said it was all about the Green New Deal, okay? And that's how they're gonna help the farmers. Then, a week after I found that, the TVA put an article in the newspaper sometime last month. My timeline is off, I don't know. I think it was last month. I reported on it on the YouTube channel on the Citizen News Report. It was the second news report. My third one got taken down already. I've only had 3 and it got removed by YouTube, so I'm official now. But the second one has information on that. And so the TVA had an article in our paper, and it was way buried in the back over by the religious news. It was over in that part of the weekly paper where they were talking about how they're bringing forward the energy of the future here. And then there are all these other things, all these little signs that I'm seeing of where that is where we're going. And that is actually why I was wondering how much, that's what I was talking about when I said how much federal money has come here, because we know that that's an agenda of the federal government. And that is what happened in a town I was in right before I came back home to Blairsville. They had, in the course of 10 years, completely violated that town. That was unregulated. It was just farmers and their weird artist wives, very strange, cool town, wild and free. And then within 10 years, it was like a tiny little, everything was paved, everything was regulated. And it was from this group called Indivisible. And in that town, your small business got shut down if you spoke in favor of the natural gas pipeline coming through. They would descend upon you like vultures and destroy your business. If you didn't put the rainbow flag in your window, if you didn't do, you know, it was like that. So I watched that happen to that tiny town, and it was unbelievable. That's actually what made me get like this when I came back home and saw things happening. I am not saying Indivisible is taking over Union County at all. I am saying that I am seeing what you're talking about happening behind the scenes, and so we need to read the fine lines, and we need to look, because it's all, look at how property taxes, short-term rentals, like all of this stuff, it's like a big web, you know? So we need to really be aware of that. That's my soapbox. Yes.
Overwhelm the system.
So what are the energy corporations? Can you?
TVA is the Tennessee Valley Authority.
Well, I know, but is there, because they talk about the industrial area all the way, and because we can't have rails come in here, our topography.
Topography.
There you go. Okay, that thing. It doesn't allow itself, so they're trying to figure out who they can bring in, which is one of the reasons that the internet was upgraded, because they know telecommuters can now work here.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they need industry to come here. So now I'm wondering because everything is, and they have to do this. There's no nefarious reason for them to do this, but everything's coded. So like their projects, when they talk about their projects in their public meeting, they have names for them, and I figured out a couple of them just by paying attention and looking at where they're talking about. But I just wonder if you have any, like maybe I could figure out what projects they're talking about for the industrial area.
Okay, I tell you what, go on to Voices of Union County, Georgia on YouTube. Scroll through, click videos, because that'll give you a list, because there's a lot of stuff on there. And then go to the episode 2 of the Citizen News Report. That's the last one that's been created.
That's what you were just referring to, like the
Yeah,
stuff you're...
and it's in there. It's an hour long, but the last 15 minutes is me teaching about plants, because that's my thing. So it's,
I just wonder...
you can stop it before then. Just kind of go along, and you'll see I show the news article. But off the top of my head, I can't tell you, because here's what I found in that article, and this is how I knew to read it with a fine tooth comb. Hey, I said it right. Is because it was a whole article where every single sentence was not giving you information. It was shaping your thoughts. And I'm like, okay, now I'm on paragraph 3, and it's not giving me any information. It's just telling, it's like a sob story or something, and then boom, there it was. And it's the same with that CPUSA article, okay? Yeah.
Okay.
So it's on there, and I show the article, and I talk about it on there.
Okay.
That's the best I got.
If I can figure out what I'm hearing, I mean, because they're talking about everything.
I see.
Anything they say that's sustainable development.
I don't know if I've heard sustainable.
My radar is off, because this is something I've noticed. Bye. Thank you so much for sharing your information.
Be careful.
Yes.
I noticed about a year ago, the commissioner was doing things like in oh yes, by the way, so this room is, we usually have more people, so it's not so difficult, but this room is $50 to rent for the meetings, and there is a basket if anyone would like to pitch in on that, okay? We appreciate it. So in conversation that had nothing to do with COVID, he would very awkwardly insert a sentence about being afraid of COVID. So I started paying attention. And he would do it in every conversation, but it was like, had nothing to do with COVID. So I'm like, oh, that's like really awkwardly done narrative seed planting. And then all this stuff came after. So he just did that at the last meeting with electricity and how to conserve your electricity. Yeah. And then somebody went into his office like the next day or 2, and they had all their lights off.
That was the same day. I went there
That
day.
would,
Yeah. He had all the lights on.
yeah, but we need to use, like, what are we doing here? Electric cars? Is it?
Oh, gosh.
It hurts my brain. Okay. That's all I got. Hey, I wanna ask somebody too, I was told that the commissioner's property tax went down. So can
imagine
someone look into that?
131,000 down,
How much?
131,000, it went down.
Wow!
He's got a dump.
And he's got a lot of dumps in his wife's name, by the way. So if you go after him, so there were some citizens about 10 years ago that discovered on the, I'm gonna give this information and then we're gonna go. That discovered on the GIS website. So GIS websites are super helpful if you're looking for information about properties. And they used the mapping tool, the measurement tool on the map, and they measured his property that was in his wife's name and found that he was claiming way less property on his taxes. So they went to the tax people and talked about it, and they just quietly changed it. That was it. But then he went into the newspaper and said they removed the measurement tool and said it was because people were using it for nefarious data mining. Okay?
Yeah,
This
he
is the
actually
same-
said that
this
out
is-
loud in public.
This is the same citizen that found this is also the one that was taking, that was doing records requests for T-Splosh stuff. And so he held not one but 2 meetings where for 30 minutes he called her vile names in public at the commissioner meeting and succeeded in destroying this woman's reputation to where even now 10 years later, if she says her name in public, people will step away from her. And she did nothing wrong. So I just wanted to put that out there, that is a thing that occurred. Okay. So.
Yeah, he still brings it up.
We
This-
brought it up.
Yeah, unfortunately for her, she's not as loud as we are. Like, we're like, hi everybody, guess what? And I got a microphone. Hey.
Got them into that.
Yeah.
And they did their own investigation, and it was still thrown out.
Right. So, all right. Well, does anyone have anything to add? It looks like our meeting goes an hour and a half no matter what, but I think we did a great job.
Has anybody not signed the petition?
Oh, yes. Do you all know about the 5,
Petition?
thank you,
For
the petition for the commissioner
I
board?
didn't get to say what I wanted to say, but that's-
So there's a petition going around by the Tea Party Patriots to get a multi-board commissioner.
I will attend it.
Commissioner board.
Yes, I will
Yeah.
attend it, no problem.
If you are interested in signing it,
I
she's
will.
got it.
I will. So just let me know.